This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This table is really tilted.
Excuse me? Am I gonna get a chance to speak?
Maybe I should take that back.
Denied. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Take a giant step for mankind.
Welcome to the Tilted Table with your hosts, Sean and Joe.
It's a lot closer to Barry White than my voice.
It's so good.
Folks, welcome to the Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I am Sean Landon Clark, one of your co-hosts.
And I am the other co-host and a fellow fountain of misinformation.
Yes.
Joey Joe, a.k.a. the Fracky Mac.
Word. And today we're going to be talking about restaurants and food and finding cool spots that are like holes in the walls, and maybe talk a little bit about, the worst places we've eaten, the best places we've eaten, surprises, gems and whatnot. So I'm going to let Joe start this one because I'm still thinking about my own experiences.
So in January, about a year ago, I met a friend for lunch, and he had told me where this restaurant is. It's called Asiana Market.
Okay. And
it's basically in my city. It's behind the Motel 6 on Herndon and Blackstone. So kind of ghetto. When you pull up and you into the parking place, you can see drug deals go down easily.
I was going to say, when I think of what's behind a Motel 6, certainly isn't a nice restaurant.
No. There's the unmarked van that you totally know is a SWAT surveillance van that's just sitting there with blacked out windows that says like Tom's Plumbing. And you're like, there's no Tom's Plumbing here.
No Tom's Plumbing.
No. So in January, I meet Matt. We get out of our cars. And so as I'm looking at the building, on the facade, there's the sign that says Asiana Market. Like 3 of the letters of Asiana are knocked out and non-functioning. To the left of the sign, in all of its glory, is a sign that says Dr. Nitwit's Lice Removal. And they share an interior door. So I look at my buddy Matt and I'm like, all right, man, do you have your tetanus shot? Because I think let's just not touch anything when we go in here. It's a Korean restaurant. When we walked in, so at this moment, the ceiling tiles are hanging down from these wires. Your feet are sticking to the floor. There's dirty dishes everywhere. It's very, you don't want OSHA making a surprise inspection type of a place. God. We proceeded to have one of the absolute best meals in recent memory. It was fantastic. Yeah. They speak zero English. At that moment,
it's good when they don't speak English.
Absolutely. Well, the other way you know it's good is they didn't have a menu. It was a bunch of Polaroid pictures scotch taped to the wall, and you just pointed at the Polaroid picture that you wanted. You're like,
sweet.
Yes. And since then, they've completely revamped everything. Like, it's super clean, very organized.
I guess OSHA finally did show up.
Something like that. They've got like these little, you feel like you're in Asia somewhere. They have little tablets on the tables that's how you order now.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they've gone past the Polaroid scotch tape to the wall.
Boy, talk about from one extreme to the other, from the Polaroids taped to the wall to
and if you Google best restaurants in Fresno, it comes up as like number 3, and you would never know that there's this hidden restaurant behind the Motel 6 where all the drug deals go down.
The best restaurants are always the holes in the wall. Almost universally, most people will tell you that the best restaurants they've ever been to are always these weird little hole in the wall spots. Places that look sketchy sometimes.
Dr. Nitwit's Lice Removal.
Right.
Most people would see that and they would just keep on rolling.
Right. Oh, that's cool. My first story is in the Bay Area. When I was working up there, I came home one night from work, and I was working the night cops beat. So I was getting home like 9:30, 10 o'clock.
A.M.?
No, this is at night.
Okay.
And the place I was living was above a bar. And there was a place called the Owl Tree. And so above it had a bunch of apartments. So I get home, and I'd been living there probably, I don't know, maybe 2 months. And I didn't have any food. And so I went down to the bar, and I was like, hey, is there any place, around here that's open? There's like, there's a Vietnamese restaurant, I think they're open till like 11. So yeah, walked over there. Never been in a Vietnamese restaurant, right? And the same situation where the menu basically was mostly pictures.
You're right.
So I'm looking at this menu, and the place was it was small, looked a little sketchy, looked like it could probably use a wipe down with a rag, sticky table. It had sriracha on the table. First time I'd ever seen sriracha. That's why for a long time I don't know if I never read the bottle or maybe I did read it and I just couldn't pronounce the word or whatever because I called it crazy rooster sauce. For like the longest time, right? And granted, I'm telling you, this is probably at least about 5 to 10 years before it became like a thing. Like sriracha was just not really popular then.
Wait, what did you call it again?
Crazy rooster sauce. It had a rooster on it,
that's
right?
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the menu and I can't make heads or tails of any of this stuff. So the lady comes over and she's like, what would you like? I said, I've never eaten at a Vietnamese restaurant or this type of restaurant. And what would you suggest? And she's like, pho. And I'm like, pho. I go, what's that? And she's just like, it's basically, beef stew. And I go, okay, cool. And she's like, do you like tripe? And I'm like, don't think I've ever had it, but, I'll take it. Why not? Let's try it. So they bring out.
Did you know what it was?
I knew that it was I think it's like intestines or something, right? So I kind of knew what it was. I know, obviously it's not chicken or pork or steak. So it's like, I knew it was some sort of intestine type thing. So she brings over this bowl and the sprouts and then I can't remember what the other stuff was, the basil or the right. So she's just like kind of like, well, you could put this in there and you can put the sriracha in there. There's a number of different ways you can do it and put limes or whatever. So I just put everything in the bowl and mix it up. And I used chopsticks, trying to be authentic as I can. Okay. But eating soup with chopsticks is not easy. Right? So got the noodles. And I mean, one of the greatest things I've ever had. I literally was just sitting there going like, oh my God, how is that I've never eaten this stuff before? And I was absolutely blown away. And I left that place and I was just like, pho. And I would like for like the next 2 weeks, I'm like, and this is San Francisco, no less. So people are pretty cultured. I'm the uncultured one. So I'm walking around going like, dude, have you ever had pho? And everybody's looking at me like, yeah. Like,
where have you been?
I thought I discovered something, this, right? Eventually I went to another restaurant and of course I'm going to get pho and it wasn't that good. And I'm like, oh, it was that specific place made some just absolutely bomb ass pho.
Yeah. Hole in the walls. Did they have the egg?
No, and I'm sticking to that. I'm almost positive it didn't have an egg. Okay. I would have remembered the egg. No, there was no egg involved in this.
It sounds like a weird thing to crack an egg and put it in pho, but I made
it's noodle soup, so egg makes sense.
My brother is a huge fan. Like him and his wife live up in the Bay Area, and they're pho connoisseurs.
Yeah.
And so he's taken me to a couple places that have really been spectacular. But when they cracked the egg, my knee-jerk reaction was like, not in my soup. But it was fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that's I'm proud of you, man. That's a brave thing that you're just like, what's pho? Okay, I'll have that. Do you want intestines in your pho? Sure, why not?
Yeah, well, I'm not a super picky eater, honestly. I'm willing to try just about anything, at least once, in terms of eating food, So when in Rome, do's the Romans. And I've even said that, I would
not burn it down.
Right, not burn it down, just, just join them, right? So I even said, I'd even if I went to China, where there can be some really exotic foods, I would be inclined to try just about anything. With the only exception would be, and I've seen these videos like on TikToks, like anything that looks like it's moving, I'm not doing that.
No.
I don't get that at all, but that's a cultural thing. And I talked to a friend of mine he's well-traveled, and tell him about those videos. And he's all, those are provinces of China that are pretty rural and isolated. That's not that common. It's like if you're in the big cities or whatever, it's going to be hard to find things like that you're going to see like on TikTok, some of the crazy things that they eat. Yeah, so I mean, like I said, when in Rome, do's the Romans. I would totally, with some limitations.
Yeah, well, I think I was sharing with you when I have time, I'm going to appointments or whatever, I'll creep through strip mall parking lots or semi-abandoned shopping centers, specifically just looking for restaurants. Then I have a little notepad that I'll scribble down like, oh, that looks interesting. I need to come back and try that. And about a year ago, I was driving down, and so basically Blackstone and Gettysburg, directly across from the Brig. There's a burned out Waffle House that's all boarded up. And right next to that is like a converted Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I didn't even know that it was open because the sign was blacked out with black spray can, like a rattle can. Like somebody was just like, we're closed type of a blackout.
Right.
The window awnings are falling off the building. It's riddled with bullet holes. And I don't mean like someone shot at it once. I mean like somebody took an AK-47 and like like through the front of it. And I walk in, there's a couple tables, a Mexican restaurant, and proceeded to have, I would say, the best, well, I won't say, it is the best asada tacos north of McKinley. I will bet money on this. There's a little old lady. She's got to be about 80 something years old. That's rolling out the tortillas on the stove in the back. They speak no English. They're famous for their seafood, and it's become a problem for me because it's one of my absolute favorite places to eat at, just period, hands down, in Fresno. And I have a lot of my work lunches there where I'll meet friends or business partners, and they're also on DoorDash. So I would say that I eat there probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I know eating Mexican food like that often is probably not the best for you, but I love it. I think, again, and they've done a complete remodel. So the building's painted, the windows are redone. So
you caught them in the middle of the rebuild.
Well,
maybe.
Cookie says that my eating is funding their remodel.
Maybe it's possible. Hey, those places, they get a reputation, even if it's an underground word of mouth type reputation. I'm sure they get traffic.
Oh, I've written about it. I blog every Friday, and I've done that for a long time. So I've written about it. I've taken a whole bunch of people there, and every single person, without me soliciting their response, like they take a bite into whatever it is they ordered, and you can see their pupils dilate, and they're like, "Wow, man, this is how did you find this place?"
It's all trial and error. You just gotta keep going to
you
different
still
places.
might have to fight a meth head in the parking lot to get in there, but I think that's part of the charm.
Yeah, and well, I mean, welcome to Fresno. You can fight meth heads pretty much wherever you go around here. Doesn't matter what restaurant it is. Have you ever heard of Chef Paul's place?
Been there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah.
That is. I honestly tell you, we specifically drove down to Chef Paul's specifically to get food there during COVID. I had never been in that part of town before.
Do you know why it's famous?
It's like the only Creole place in Fresno.
Oh, okay. Well, Joe Rogan shouted them out. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So they caught a bunch of fire. Joe Rogan comes on his podcast and he starts talking about like, I don't know where he was from. Assuming he was doing a show or something, or maybe he was just passing through. And so he starts talking about, I was in Fresno and there's a place called Chef Paul's, and they got this great food and whoop-de woo. And yeah, then all of a sudden it's just like gets all this sort of massive attention.
Yeah. Cookie and I went there. It was like a weird hour. It was like Wednesday at 11:20 in the morning, and it was packed. Like the whole dining room was packed. We waited in line for probably a half an hour just to order.
And I'm sure Joe Rogan part of the reason why.
And it's the only time I've ever in my adult life ordered collard greens and fried chicken at 11:30 in the morning, because I guess that's one of the main things they're famous for.
I've never eaten there, so I have no clue what it's like. I've heard nothing but good things.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely in a sketchy part of town. I wouldn't go walking around there at when it's dark outside.
Yeah, that's what Joe Rogan said. And I thought it was kind of strange because he said, "Wow, man, this place is awesome, but it's in like the worst part of town. There's all these sort of like homeless people everywhere, and it's all sketchy and drug addicts." And I'm thinking, and when he did this, he was still living in Los Angeles. This is before he moved to Texas. And my first time I was listening to this, like, bitch, you're from Los Angeles. I would all of a sudden, you ain't never been in a place like this. Go to L.A.
Right.
You just described L.A. to me, right? So I thought that was kind of weird that he's just talking about how sketchy it was.
Well, it's definitely on a to-do list. I would certainly check it out.
Yeah, I need to go down there. I've always meant to, but I've always heard it's got long waits.
Just Uber. You don't want to not Uber, go eat, and then walk out and find your car's gone.
It can't be that bad.
It's
probably. What am I saying?
It's down off of G Street. One of the times I was cruising down there, it was like 7:00 in the morning. I was going to a car event, had my windows down because it was just a beautiful morning.
Yeah.
I heard this crunching sound, and my stereo wasn't on, so I heard this like kind of crunching, popping sound, like plastic.
Yeah.
I was doing 2 miles an hour. I was in neutral, so I just opened my car door slightly, and I was rolling over a sea of syringes. So yes, it's one of those. Just you have to watch yourself when you're down there.
Oh my God. It's weird because I've been to most sketchy parts of this town. And I'll tell you, I lived in Oakland for a long time. And so I've been around a lot of crazy neighborhoods. So I'm not really too worried about it. But you're right. I mean, driving down there and, you're going to have, especially if you like have your window down or something like that. If you get to roll up a window, you're going to get your car rifled through.
Yeah. Well, another good place. It's not sketchy. Cookie and I will always take Uber, but Mike's Pizzeria.
Yeah, over there on Shields and what is it? Shields and West or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Deep, super deep.
Yeah, that's a popular spot. I've been there a bunch of times.
Yeah, the food I think is outstanding, but I think what really makes it a charming blast from the past place and brings back a lot of really good memories is they've got when you walk in the door, you can go left to the restaurant,
or right to the bar,
but it's the old school, stuck in 1984 type of bar.
Oh yeah,
with the dimly lit lighting and the wood paneling on the walls, and the waitress or the bartender calls you hun.
Yeah.
There's the regulars that are camped out. They got the little brass plaques on the back of their chairs because they're there that often.
Yeah. They got their nameplates.
Yep. It's there's not a lot of places anywhere that exist like that anymore.
Yeah, I've been to the bar one time, and that was probably 20 years ago, and I know it's there. Fun when I went there. I've been to the restaurant dozens of times. The food is really, really good. It's probably, a lot of people consider it the best Italian food in town.
Yep.
And I'm not disagreeing with that. It's definitely up there. So yeah, I dig it. The only thing I don't like about it is that I really don't like the actual restaurant itself. The bar is cool. I love the fact that it probably hasn't changed in 40 years, but the restaurant itself is extremely dated, and I don't find it particularly appealing in the restaurant. Food is really, really good though. So if you can get past the aesthetics, at least from my perspective, I don't really care.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. But the other thing that always trips me out about that place, for such great Italian food, why it's called Mike's just blows my mind. And obviously, it's named after either the original owner or the family or whatever. I get that. It just seems like if you're going to have an Italian restaurant, especially if you really want to come off as being particularly authentic, and their food is really, really good, you think you would have a more Italian-sounding name. Because Mike's Pizzeria is like, why don't you just call it Dave's Pizzeria? Like, it just doesn't sound Italian at all.
Chuck's Italian food.
Right, Chuck's Italian food.
Well, I know the owner is Peter, super nice gentleman, and yeah, his family is straight from Italy, so it's about as authentic as you can get. But yeah, I totally hear you on the name.
Yeah, and I feel bad for the location as well, because you have to deal with the fact that that's not the nicest area of town.
No.
And when you're talking about Chef Paul's place, if you go right across the street, there's a liquor store. There's an old closed down bar. I think it was called Nick's. And then there's like another building on the side that I don't think anything has ever occupied it, at least nothing that I can recall being there. And homeless people are just camped all around that building.
Oh yeah.
So you got to deal with all that nonsense.
Sketch.
That's a sketchy part of town.
Well, here's a question for you. And I kind of teed it up a little bit earlier when we were bouncing around ideas. Is I've got one of my friends, Drew. I think is 74-ish years old. And every couple of months we get together, and we've been doing this for about 2 years. We're on a mission to find the best burger place in Fresno. So we trade off. So I'll pick one place, and then he picks one place, and then we just go back and forth.
Sure.
And some of the places that we've gone, and this is where I'm gonna pick your brain.
Okay.
We've thought was outstanding. Other places that in my memory were outstanding, we went back and it was like eating food at the airport cafeteria type of a deal.
Oh God.
Right. How long has this been under the heat lamp type of a thing? So do you have a favorite burger place in Fresno, and why?
Yeah, I think the place that I like the most is the Press Box on the Fig Garden Loop, specifically that location. They make great burgers. Now, is it the best burger in town? Probably not. But it's definitely the best burger I've had in recent memories. I don't eat a lot of hamburgers. I do like them, but typically when I go out, when I go out to eat, I typically go out and order something more like a steak or something, and I don't go out for burgers. If I want a burger, I'll make one at home kind of situation. I don't eat fast food, so I'm never going to have a burger from your typical fast food joint. But the last burger that I had that I was absolutely impressed with, like this is really, really good, was the Press Box in the Fig Garden Loop. Okay. And I can't really describe why it was good. Whatever bun they used was really good. It was a high end, I don't know, brioche or whatever. It was one of those types of buns. And the taste of the burger, I don't know, the way that it was made, it had, kind of a really nice char around it, so you could taste the char, but it was really juicy inside. Yeah, it was good.
Sounds solid.
I would just describe it as it was better than your average burger you would probably get like at a bar and grill. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of places I go where they have burgers, but I don't think their patties are particularly fresh. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You get a basic burger and it's it's all right. They're obviously using fresh ingredients over there, but the other stuff I've had at that press box has been pretty impressive. They have steak bites, and those are really, really good. And they do fancy schmancy stuff with their dishes and decorate them.
Yeah,
There's a presentation. This is a sports bar, right? Mm-hmm. So typically you don't get that kind of
the aesthetics aren't usually like a fine dining type of deal.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that whoever's the chef there this is his thing. So I'm gonna, I'm at a bar and grill. I'm gonna make it nice as possible, and probably convince the owners to, I need these types of ingredients, and so it's really, really good.
Okay. One of the places that Drew picked out on this adventure, I'd walked past for 30 something years, is in Old Town Clovis, the 500 Club.
Yeah.
It used to be a card room, and I thought it was a card room still.
The last time I went there, they were still playing cards in the back, but it's very, very small, and it seems to be extremely intimate in terms of you have to know people. Like, you're never going to get into that. There's people always playing, and you're not going to get in unless you either hang out for a long time or, rub elbows with the
right person.
Yeah, the regulars.
Yeah.
Because they built a new one on Shaw and Willow.
Right.
So that's, I think if you're just a, regular player, you go there. If you know people, you go to the original 500 Club. I have eaten there. Their food is good.
And the burger, it's like the same guy since like the early 80s is still standing behind the grill. And I would say that's top 2 burgers in Fresno. Just the freshness of the ingredients is very simple. It reminds me of like going to Great Aunt Thelma's house and barbecuing in the backyard on a family reunion. Like, that's the type of burger it is. It's fantastic.
Yeah, burgers aren't complicated. It's always about ingredients. The fresher, the better. And there's a place in San Jose, and it just popped in my head right now. I saw it on a social media feed. I don't know the name of it. I think it is called San Jose something, but it's a burger joint that's like super popular. But it's super popular because the prices are like really cheap. Like, you can get a burger for $1.99, a cheeseburger for like $2.99.
That's a thing?
Yeah, and a double burger for like $3.99. It only has the burger and I think grilled onions. There's no other toppings. There's no lettuce or tomato.
Okay.
So if you get a burger, you can just get, I guess, a burger in the bun, whatever. I don't know what they put on it, sauce or mayonnaise or whatever the condiment would be. But if you can get it with onions, you can get it with cheese. You can get a double or a single.
Okay.
Yeah. And super, super popular. And people, they rave about it. They say it's like, best burger in California. But I'm sure the price makes it much tastier.
Much more no pun intended, more palatable.
Yeah, of course. It's like, it's $1.99 or $2.99. The thing that throws me about it is San Jose is not cheap. So I don't know how they're making any money.
You must have owned it for the property for like the last 50 years.
Well, so the thing is that when I saw the video, and I'm going by memory, it could be a truck for all I know. I'm going by memory and thinking in my head, like, what was it? Was it coming out of a truck? I swear it was a location.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Leave a like on the video. I know you're enjoying this. Can you shut up?
The internet's answer to a question that was never asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
Well, one of the swing and misses is, as a kid, I remember I loved going to Red Robin. They had 2 burgers. They had like the whiskey barbecue burger, and they had the blue ribbon burger or something like that. And I just remember it being like an epic burger, endless fries. It was always a great experience. So on this burger saga that Drew and I have been on, one of my picks was, hey, let's go back to Red Robin. I haven't been there in 15 years.
That's a good place to start too, because it's a chain restaurant, and typically chains aren't that impressive.
No. So we walked in, and it was like, well, yes, they haven't updated the decor in also 30 years.
Right. Still looks like a TGIF, right? A bunch of crap on the walls.
Yeah. I half expected, like from the movie Office Space, and how they had flair on their belts.
Yeah.
I half expected like people with flair.
Chotskis. I can't remember actually. Was it Chotski? Well, whatever the name of the restaurant was.
That's what it was called.
Chotskis.
Yeah. So I was all excited. I ordered the blue ribbon burger, whatever, and oh my goodness. I think I ate half of it, and I'm like, man, I can't do it. Half of it looked like it was raw, and the other half, and not like the middle and the top. I mean, like left to right, and the other half was like a charcoal briquette.
Wow, that's a weird.
And the bun was stale, like knock it on the top of the table and kind of break it in half type of stale. Yeah, it was.
Is it really that bad?
It was not good, to the point it was his turn to pay, because we always like just go back and forth. He was like, I don't feel that I should have to pay for this meal. I'm like, he's like, I'm not going to tip because we haven't had any service. I'm like, well, that's unfortunate, but I understand. It's like if the food's inedible and you got abandoned at your table, so it's almost like I'm looking for the blinking red light, for candid camera. Like maybe we're just getting punked. No, nothing's ever going to be that bad. Maybe somebody's watching just to see how we'll react. But no, that was actually lunch. So in terms of small chain, local chain, Colorado Grill is my favorite burger.
I've never been there.
What?
I've never been to Colorado
How is
Grill.
that possible?
I don't know. It's funny because I think friends have gone there, and I've either been with them or that was suggested.
Is that like a religious thing? You don't go there?
No. I just said it has nothing religious. What the fuck? I just have never been there. I don't eat out a lot to begin with, but when I do, again, I typically go out to like a dinner, right? Mm-hmm. So that sort of midline kind of go get a burger at a restaurant or something like that just doesn't happen too often with me. Mm-hmm. So I've never had Colorado Grill. I've heard nothing but good things about Colorado Grill. So but the one and I don't know if it's still there. Is it the one on Herndon and
there's
Blackstone?
There's like 5 of them now in town. But okay. Yeah, that's the original, is the Herndon Blackstone.
It used to be like a fat burger, I think, at one time. Mm-hmm. So which location are you referring to?
I either go to that one, and the people that work there are just, you can tell they love their job. You walk in and they're like, hey, and it's not, hey, like, yeah, my boss is watching, I need to like be nice to the new customer or something. Like, they're genuinely enjoying their job, and you hear them all like bantering, joking, because they're cooking basically right in front of you.
Sure.
So you can tell it's like the old school kind of diner booth that you sit in, and they've got vanilla Coke on tap, like things that you don't really see very often. And they're constantly, checking and enthusiastically like, hey, is everything perfect? You want more fries? I can totally hook you up. Like the food's outstanding. The vibe is even better. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been there. Local chain, I guess what they say, got 5 locations. Mm-hmm. They're growing in size. I've been to Red Robin though, and it's interesting just going back to that story. My experience at Red Robin was pretty mediocre, but I don't expect much from places like that. Mm-hmm. Like, so you go in there and they got the bottomless fries, which is kind of cool because I'm actually kind of addicted to French fries. I try to stay away from French fries. I'd actually kill myself on French fries. I can eat them by themselves. I don't need food. I just need to give me French fries and a number of dipping sauces, and we're good to go.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was pretty mediocre. So when you told your story about it, I was just like, well, I mean, come on, it's Red Robin.
Yes.
It's like if you go to Denny's, are you really expecting to get, something really, really good? Most chain restaurants don't, they don't impress that much to me. Chili's isn't too bad. I've had a burger at Chili's. I thought it was pretty good. But even then, like compared to like, say, my experience like at Press Box, it's not even close. And I'm sure the experience like at 500 Club.
Right.
I mean, there's no chain restaurant that's going to make a burger like that. And I think it's going to always be about the ingredients.
100%.
They're getting massive amounts of product distributed through all their stores, and everybody's getting the same thing. And it's not as fresh as it could be.
Right.
And it makes a big difference. The thing that actually I'm surprised about is how poorly cooked yours was. Typically, these chain restaurants, there's a system to it. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of creativity involved. And the idea is supposed to be that if you go to a Red Robin and get, the blue ribbon burger, and you go to the other Red Robin in another town, it's going to taste nearly identical. That's sort of be the point. So I'm surprised that you got one that was really that messed up.
Here's another good one. Have you been to Triangle Burger?
Yeah, I have been there a bunch of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
I totally dig it. I had honestly never been there. This is definitely before COVID. I met with a buddy for lunch, and I thought it was the best burger I had in recent memory. To the point, let's just say that lunch happened. His name is Matt, and then my lunch with Matt happened on a Monday. I was there on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. On Saturday, I wanted another one. So I actually went, but I didn't want it. At this point, it's getting weird, right? Like this dude keeps showing up and ordering 2 doubles, and like that's just not healthy.
Oh God, you're killing yourself.
So I went through the drive-through, hat and sunglasses, and as you know, I did my normal, hey, can I get 2 doubles and order of fries and a large Coke? And then I kind of crept up to the checkout window in the drive-through. And I swore the guy like did a triple take, like he's back.
Hey, that's what they want. They want repeat business, right? Yeah, I like Triangle, but that food's dangerous.
It's one of those that
food is dangerous.
If you pick it up to go and it's in the bag, by the time you get to your car, the bag's soaked through with grease.
Yep. Yeah, that's dangerous food. I typically don't like food that's that greasy. I mean, the taste is fine. I mean, part of the reason why some of those things taste so good is they're
hangover food.
Yeah, laden with grease and fat and all the salt and awesomeness.
Yes.
But yeah, you can't eat that stuff. You'll die.
Yeah,
you'll die fast.
Have one of those and then go get your cholesterol tested or something.
Yeah, and I've never been a big food addict. Like I know a lot of people that will get fast food. And they love it and they just can't go without it. And the next day go back. I mean, obviously in America, we're definitely a food addicted society, especially with junk food like that.
Right.
So when I had Triangle Burger, everyone would just rave about it. It's just this old school place.
Well, that original had been there since the 50s.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So it's like, that's that old school stuff. And I went there and I loved it. Definitely straight out of, again, the 50s, 60s, that whole vibe. And those burgers are delicious. But when I was eating that thing, I was like, ooh, man, if you ate this on a regular basis, you wouldn't live too long. You would be dead. Or you would at least be grossly overweight.
Yes.
There's no way around it. You couldn't even work out that food. There's no way. If you ate that every day, you could be at the gym the rest of the day for like 12 hours straight.
I think
you're still gonna get fat.
The word you're looking for is coagulate. Terrible.
Oh my God. Yeah, so I like that place, but I definitely would not. I wouldn't go back. I'd stay away from that place.
From Triangle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little more picky about my food. Like I get that like the burgers are really good, but they're really, really greasy. And it's like I can get a burger, I think that's just as good, if not better.
And healthier.
And not necessarily, I think probably just healthier, I guess is a good way to put it. That much grease. I don't even, when's the last time they changed their vats? And how often do they clean that grill that they cook on?
Well, so you just hit on a great point, because one of the things Cookie was asking, why do you like that burger so much? And I said, well, it's a converted Foster's Freeze. Yeah. I talked to the people that work there. Yeah. They never swapped out the equipment.
Yeah.
So the grill that they're cooking on has been seasoned for 40 years.
Yep.
They've been cooking burgers on this.
And that's probably why it tastes so good. But it's also part of the thing that scares the living shit out of me.
It's like cooking on an asbestos surface or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely places I need to go to try out more burgers, but like I said, outside of going out to restaurants mostly to eat dinner, where I'm not going to have a burger, the only thing I think in my head is pizza. And recently I had Mountain Mike's.
Oh, I love Mountain Mike's.
Yeah, and I was impressed. And I don't know their chain status. I don't know if they're.
It's like a franchise deal.
Yeah, so it's not like a local chain, like they're all over America, I'm assuming, or wherever they're located at.
For sure, California.
Yeah,
there's
definitely. Yeah, and so I wasn't expecting much, and I thought they were really, really good. I was like, holy crap, this pizza's really good. And again, typically when I think about good food, chains don't come to mind. I think when I walk into a chain, I know what to expect. But I would put their pizza as at least probably top 10 that I've had.
Yeah. No, I mean, we don't, Cookie and I eat pretty darn clean. So even though we're talking about burgers and grease and all that, like these are very rare instances for us. But if we do order pizza, that's what we always get is Mountain Mike's.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, that's our go-to.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, everybody would talk about me and Ed's generally like, oh, that's the the sort of the gold standard.
Can't do it, man. Can't. It's that
a lot of people hate me and Ed's.
I don't like it. I would honestly rather have a lettuce leaf. And I mean, I think what weirds me out, my parents love it, but what weirds me out is the cornmeal that they like cook the pizza on, and then it gets in the box, and when you eat it, the bottom of the crust has cornmeal all over it, and it's like a weird. Is it sawdust? Is it sand texture? Like I don't care for it.
Gee, I don't think I've ever noticed it. But gee, I'm trying to think the last time I even had mean-eds. I like mean-eds. I've never had a problem with it. But I know, but again, a lot of people hate it. It seems like there's very few people that are like, oh, it's all right. It's either like, oh, this is really, really good pizza, or it's just like, to them, it's like the worst thing ever. And I think they're only California. I don't think they're a big chain. Like, there's a couple here in town. There's
it's like a local deal.
And it's like, I think a few in Sacramento. And I think maybe one or two down south. So they're not super big. I could still consider them kind of a mom and pop kind of spot. So
speaking of mom and pop, in memories, in Old Town Clovis, there's Luna's Pizzeria.
Yeah.
It's been there so long that I was taken there when I was a baby in a car seat.
Oh, God.
And I'm 45 years old. And they had already existed for a long time prior to my family taking me in the car seat to Luna's. And their pizza has never changed. During college, I'd go with my grandma and grandpa, and we go pick up a pizza there, and it's still fantastic. It's very different than all of the rest of the pizzas. And the inside, I think they just finally, as of 2 weeks ago, they finally renovated the inside, or at least painted some things.
Wow.
But it's been the same thing for, that's got to be almost 60 years.
I've never been there. I don't know anything about it. I've never been to Luna's. No.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
Is that a religious thing?
is that a religious? No. I don't know why I've never been there. I don't think anybody's ever recommended it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will put that on the to-do list.
That would be the first stop. I'd go there before I'd go to Chef Paul's place.
Chef Paul's, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to. I'm trying at Luna. I'm assuming I don't have to worry about meth heads in my car getting stolen.
No, you're not going to get shanked in the parking lot.
Or driving over a bunch of syringes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would go there first. Warm up to the going down to Chef Paul's place.
Okay. Hey, at least you've got a plan.
Well, as long as there's not a wait, that'd be my biggest hurdle to going to a place like Chef Paul's, is the idea that I don't want to wait 30, 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. I don't buy into that. When I was living in the Bay Area, that was common. There's these places that would be super popular, and they're a total little hole in the walls. And then you go down there, and there's a line a mile long, and it's like people telling you, like, oh, it's a 3-hour wait. And people will stand around and wait 3 hours because it's a hip spot, or it's got a reputation. And right across the street could be a great restaurant, and it's virtually empty, right? Because people want to go to the specific one. Mm-hmm. It's the same with Benediction. Have you ever been to Benediction?
Okay, they're on DoorDash, so I have had it.
Okay, so
I've heard it's fantastic if you go there.
And I don't know if they still have the location. It was like on Bullard and Marks.
Yes.
And I don't know if they're still there. I'm trying to go by memory. They had a location there. And one morning, me and my friends, because the hype, this place is supposed to be really, really good. So we go there, and it's like, I think, an hour and a half wait. And it's breakfast. It's like, an hour and a half wait. It's going to be lunch. You know what I'm saying? So we're standing outside, and we're kind of looking, you can see through the window. And they only had like 5 or 6 tables. And I'm just like, well, no shit. Like, you sort of create this sort of exclusivity simply by the fact that you don't have the space. And they're like, oh, it's hard to get a seat at Benediction. Well, yeah, because there's 5 fucking tables. Like, no shit. Right? They can't seat more than like 10 people, basically. Like, right? So I don't know how good it is. You said you had it on DoorDash. I've never eaten there, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've had it. But giving a place a food grade or a rating on a styrofoam container that arrives 20 minutes later, right? I remember it didn't blow my head off, but I wasn't expecting it to.
Well, I don't think breakfast. I don't know what you got. If you got like an omelet or something, I don't think those things can be fancy. It doesn't seem like breakfast food. It has the same kind of cachet as, let's say, a dinner. Mm-hmm. This is the best steak in town, or whatever. This is the best eggs in town, the best omelet. It just doesn't seem, at least from my perspective.
The best brunch in town, and Cookie and I did this. I want to say every Saturday for nearly 2 years. It was a real treat. As at Elbow Room in Fig Garden.
Oh yeah, they got good food.
And we called it brunch, but it wasn't like brunch where there's like a buffet line. It wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. We were just went in there for breakfast, and we'd hang out there for like 3 hours, and we had the same server, Jake. And during the week, that's especially during this time period. I was super diligent, meeting with a nutritionist, watching my macros, and then I got one cheat meal per week, and it was all, I called it the Thunderdome, and the Thunderdome was going to Elbow Room and having bacon, eggs, 4 martinis. I get lots of fried potatoes, and they get rolled out of there, and then Cookie would throw me in the car and drive me home, and I'd sleep it off until the afternoon and then finish the rest of my day.
Oh my God.
So yeah, in terms of breakfast in Fresno, shout out Elbow Room.
Yeah, I've never had breakfast there. I've had a lot of lunches and dinners there. I typically don't go out for breakfast. Every time I've ever gone out for breakfast, like the attempt, all these places are just packed. Because he's on a Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
And you go to these Waffle Houses. You can go to Benediction. It doesn't matter where you go. It seems like there's a freaking line a mile long. Just like the Red Apple Cafe, which is like stupid popular.
Yeah.
I mean, go there. That's at least an hour wait. And that's on, I think on any given morning. It could be a 45-minute wait, and let alone like a Saturday or Sunday where I'm sure it's even longer. And I know that me and Love went there at least once. And we may have gone with James and Nicole. And we went with another couple. And so I've eaten there once, and I thought it was good. But again, it's a breakfast, house. I don't really...
It's the hash browns.
Yeah, I don't know if I can tell, like, this is like, wow, this is particularly good omelet. This is particularly good, again, hash browns or toast or whatever it is that you got, right? So I trip out on places that, people talk about, especially Waffle Houses. Like if you go to L.A., Hollywood, it's Roscoe's, chicken and waffles. Like, oh, man, best chicken and waffles. Like I can see the chicken maybe, but waffles, like once you put syrup on it, doesn't it just taste like waffles?
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't know if like these are the best waffles. Are you sure? Right? Because I can tell the difference between really good chicken and bad chicken. I don't know about waffles. At least I've never had that experience where it's just like, wow.
That's one of those things.
Great waffles.
I've never been able to understand is the chicken and waffles. I have had it. It's not my jam, and I just don't understand why people get all hot to trot over syrup on chicken.
I think it's a sweet and salty thing. I mean, it's definitely like there's ice cream that is the sea salted caramel. Like people like that sweet and salty, or they'll get trail mix that has M&Ms in it, and the nuts with salt. So you got the sweet salt thing. I think that's what it's about. I've never had chicken and waffles. It's fried chicken. I don't like fried chicken in any form. It's just not something I like.
You don't get a bottle of log cabin syrup and put it on some KFC?
No, I would never do that. None of that sounds appealing to me. And maybe I'm missing out on something, but I don't like fried chicken to begin with. So I don't know if dumping syrup on it is going to really alter it for me. So I never get it. Sometimes I think these places, they get real popular and it becomes kind of, I don't call it a novelty, but it is kind of weird. Like, chicken and waffles, right? So okay, and it's Roscoe's. It's been around for 1 million years, and so they've got that sort of legacy behind them. Celebrities go there all the time. One time I went, they had it literally kind of shut down because Will Smith was there, and his family was eating. So I guess they get the place to themselves. I don't know, right? So we pull up, and they're like, we're gonna be closed for the next 2 hours. And I'm like, oh, and people are outside kind of hanging out, and they're just like, oh yeah, no, Will Smith is in there, and so I think they're kind of keeping the number of people inside on the low end, so that Mr. Smith can get his privacy, right? But again, it's like it's chicken and waffles. But I did go to a place in Vegas that is I guess the competitor to Roscoe's, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a real popular chicken and waffle type place.
Okay. And
they serve morning. Their one of their breakfast items in the morning is Budweiser and bacon. So
seriously?
Oh yeah, it's like I'm going by memory. I swear, I think it's like 8 strips of like super thick bacon, and it comes like in a goblet. So the bacon is standing. It's stiff enough that it can stand up. And it comes in that, and it comes with a 22-ounce Budweiser, Bud and bacon,
like the original Budweiser.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had that, but again, we're sitting in this restaurant, and my first thought was like, a lot of this to me is sort of novelty. It's like, okay, Budweiser and bacon. I was laughing. The only reason I ordered it was because I felt like I had to. Like I wasn't itching to have 8 strips of thick ass bacon and a Budweiser. When you see it on the menu and you have to like, I gotta order this. I just gotta see like exactly what's this shit's about.
Your arteries are screaming as you're doing it.
Hey, the bacon was really, really good. I'm not gonna take anything away from the bacon. It was really, really good. The Budweiser was what you fuck was a Budweiser, shitty beer. Sorry for those of you folks that like Budweiser, shitty ass beer.
I do like going out, or both Cookie and I like going out to brunch where they have like those Bloody Mary carts.
Okay, yeah.
With all of the accoutrement, like, would you like a miniature burger on a stick stuck into your beverage?
Right. Yeah.
I think that's pretty darn entertaining.
Yeah, I think that places like Roscoe's and they got that legacy. And I don't know where the whole chicken and waffles comes from. If it's something that was just around for hundreds of years and it just slowly over time, and it's just so out of my wheelhouse. And it just doesn't sound like it sounds like it's made up to me. Like there was one place in town that was Chinese food and hamburgers, and I'm thinking, how much of this is a shtick, right? Like, oh, we're Chinese food and hamburgers, like two things that don't seem to really go together. It's a restaurant.
But isn't that usually the case if you go to, like, say you go to a Mexican restaurant and they happen to make burgers? That burger is probably pretty legit.
Yeah. For sure, yeah. And a lot of places do that. You think that's like, oh, you go to a Mexican restaurant and they might have a hamburger on the menu. And you're like, what? Out of nowhere.
Or like a burrito at a Chinese place.
Right, yeah.
And it's probably pretty legit.
Yeah. So kudos to chicken and waffles.
Yeah, man.
It's just not my shtick.
See, it's finding those new hidden gems or creeping through strip mall parking lots. Like, you can find some really cool stuff.
See, I got to do more of it. I'm lagging.
I just put together a list for you. I'll save you all of the treasure hunting.
Yeah, we got a starting point for me.
Yes.
So we'll have to go have lunch.
Done. We can make this happen.
I have an important announcement for you, so stay tuned.
Yo, that's some next level shit, bruh.
So you got me. Big deal.
The internet's answer to a question no one asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
Well, folks, thank you for joining us for another episode of The Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I am Sean Landon Clark.
I am Joey Joe, a.k.a. the Fracky Mac, and we appreciate you grabbing your surfboard and riding this wave of misinformation.
Right, and now we got to go out and go get some food. I'm hungry.
Me too.
Yeah, let's go do it.
Peace.
All right, later.